Everything goes white. I can feel the breeze.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Casey and I'm the maker and creator behind Back to Eden Boutique, which is my crochet business. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you a crochet tutorial on how to make your own gnomes. You can either do a gnome with no arms and a straight hat. You can make the hat crooked, or you can add arms, and I'm going to show you how to make this little pumpkin so that he can be holding a pumpkin. In the future, I'm going to be creating other variations of things that he will be holding, so stay tuned for those videos. To make these gnomes, you're going to need a 6-weight yarn. I prefer burlap blanket. I will also be using Chanel Home Slim by Loops and Threads, or you can use Premier's Basic Chanel. You're going to need a body collar, a nose collar, and a collar for the hat and the brim. This, for the nose that I'm going to be using, is burlap baby blanket baby sand. This is burlap blanket in vintage white. And this is Chanel Home Slim by Loops and Thread in the color mustard. You're also going to need scissors and a 7mm hook, as well as a stitch marker and a needle. If you're going to make the little pumpkin, you're also going to want to use a 4mm hook and 2 colors of worsted weight yarn, very small amounts. To get started, we're going to take the body color and make a magic circle. And using the 7mm hook, we're going to single crochet 6 into that magic circle. That was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then we're going to pull the magic circle tight. And this pattern is worked in the round, so we're just going to keep going. No turning or slip stitching. Round 2, you're going to single crochet increase into each stitch for a total of 12 stitches. I like to put a stitch marker in my first stitch. 2, 3, 4. After you have 12 stitches, I'll meet you back here. Before I move on to round 3, I like to sew in my magic circle in just to make sure everything stays tight. Round 3 is another row of increases, so we're going to increase in every single stitch around for a total of 24 stitches. And if I haven't mentioned yet, these are single crochets. And I will meet you guys back when I have finished my 24 stitches. Round 4 is going to be single crochet 3 and then a single crochet increase repeat for a total of 30 stitches. So it's going to look like 1, 2, 3, and then an increase, 4, 5. And I'll show you that one more time. Alright, keep going, doing that repeat, and I will meet you back for round 5. Now that you've reached 30 stitches, this is the base of the gnome, and we're going to be working up now. And to achieve that, we're going to be working in the back loop only. So for round 5, we're going to back loop only, single crochet around for 30 stitches. So we're going to find the back loop. We're going to find the back loop, and we're going to single crochet into that loop. And we're going to do that for every single stitch around. and it's going to give you the effect that it's going to stand up now. The yarn's going to be working in a different direction. So finish that round and I'll meet you back for the next one. This is what your completed row 5 is going to look like. Everything's going to be kind of sitting up like a little tiny shallow basket. For round 6 through 11, we're going to be single crocheting around in each stitch one time, so it's going to be a total of 30 stitches for each round. So you're going to do that for the next 6 rounds. So we're just going to single crochet 30 for each round. And once you have all those done, I'll meet you back here for round 12. Now that you've completed those 6 rounds, we're going to move on to round 12. And this is going to have a repeat. So it's going to be 3 single crochets and then a decrease. And you're going to repeat that around for 24 total stitches. It's going to be 3 single crochets, 2, 3, and then a decrease. And I use the invisible decrease, which looks like this. You're going to go through the front loop of the first stitch, and then you're going to go through the front loop of the second stitch, and then you're going to yarn over and pull through both of those in single crochet. So you're going to repeat that until you have 24 stitches, and I'll meet you back for round 13. For round 13, we are just going to single crochet around with a total of 24 stitches. This is the final stitch for round 13. And I'm going to color change in this next stitch. So what I'm going to do is yarn over and pull through, but I'm not going to pull through again to complete the stitch. I'm going to trim this, push this white to the side because I don't need it anymore. And I'm going to grab my hat color. I'm going to pull through. Make sure I put those 2 tails in the body, and we've completed the color change. That is how I prefer to do my color changes. It's very seamless. For round 14, we're going to single crochet in the back loop only. There's going to be 24 stitches total. So back loop only again. You're going to make sure that this one doesn't get too loose on that first stitch. So there's the first one. There's the second one. Do that 24 times. Now that I've completed round 14, I'm going to take these 2 tails that are on the inside, and I'm just going to knot them a couple times. Do that 3 times. And I just push the tails down into the body. And we're going to keep going. Round 15, we're just going to single crochet around 24 times. This is through both loops. Round 16 is going to be a repeat round. So we are going to single crochet 2 and then do a decrease for a total of 18 stitches. You're going to repeat that all the way around. 2, doing that invisible decrease again. 3. Just keep repeating that around for 18 total stitches. I'm going to pause right here and stuff the body, and for the rest of the time that I'm working, I will just stuff as I go. For round 17, we are just going to single crochet around 18 times total. Round 18 is going to be a repeat row where we single crochet 1 and then decrease for a total of 12 stitches. Row 19, you're going to single crochet around for a total of 12 stitches. Row 20, you're going to single crochet 1 and decrease and repeat that around for a total of 8 stitches. Make sure you start stuffing here too, because the hole is going to get a lot smaller as we start to go now, and you want to make sure you stuff. Round 21, you're going to single crochet 2 and then decrease, and you're going to repeat that around for a total of 6 stitches. Round 22, we are going to single crochet around 6. I just stuffed that one last time. This is going to be our final round, round 23. We are going to single crochet 1 and decrease, and we're going to repeat that for a total of 4 stitches. And now you can cut this off about this long, and we're going to sew in the ends. Ooh, did you guys see that fluff fly? Okay, so you can either just tie this off here and weave it in through the body, or you can make the hat a little bit crooked, which is what I'm going to do. It would come out looking kind of like this. You can do however crooked you want. This actually kind of reminds me of a witch's hat. And wouldn't this be cute if you did like a green body with a black hat and maybe like a purple nose for like a little witch? That would be really cute. So to tie this off, I just want to find those last couple of stitches, and I just go through those ones, and then I just make a little knot. And this top doesn't have any stuffing in it, and that will help me be able to bend it more. If you want it to be straight up, you could stuff it just a little bit more. So I'm going to take my yarn and insert it down in, and this is the back. So I'm going to have that facing behind me, So you can see you could just tie your yarn up here and you're done, or you can bend it. So I'm going to have a bent hat. I want to make sure the back is behind me so I'm not bending it in a weird place. And I just want to figure out where I want it to bend. There's no real science behind this, unless maybe you do this all the time and you have this figured out. But what I'm going to do, I've got my yarn here, and I'm just going to come up and essentially just pull this down using like whip stitches. This yarn sheds a lot. I'm not used to using it. This is one of the first times I've used it. So I'm just kind of messing around, trying to find the look that I want. You can see the farther I go down, the more it like wants to bend, because I went up and gathered it there, and now I'm pulling it down, and I think I like that. Let me see if I can, yeah. Okay. So now he's got a little crooked hat. I'm just going to tie that off there. And what I do is I just make a little knot. I feel like with this blanket yarn, everything kind of just blends together, and you can get away with more stuff like this versus if we were doing this with worsted weight, we wouldn't be able to. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I'm just going to tug that a little bit and trim it. Okay, so there's my little crooked hat. The next step is to create the brim of the hat. So we are going to, on the back of the project, which is right here, you can tell because of that's where the rows start and end. Using our 7mm hook, we're going to go into the front loop only that was left over from round 14, from where the color change happened. So with this yarn, you can't, because the color I chose, you can't really see it as well on the camera, but it's right there. That's the front loop, and I can see them all the way around. So I'm going to go into the first one here, and you want the hat facing away from you. I'm going to grab my hat color, which if you want to do a different brim color, that's totally fine. I'd love to see that. If you want to tag me on Instagram with any of the things that you guys have made, I would love to see them. So I'm going to just pull through, have a little tail here. I'm going to move that to the right side, and I'm going to chain one and pull that tight just to secure it. And I like to use this tail to sew in a little hole that is formed here at the end. So what we're going to do is we are going to single crochet around in these front loops only, and you're going to have a total of 24 single crochets around. That includes this first one, so we're going to go in and single crochet here and just keep going around. I wouldn't use black as the body because you really wouldn't see the stitches then. Okay, now that I've done that first round, you can see where you should have the same effect. We're going to work in the round here. We're not going to slip stitch. We're just going to keep going. You want to make sure you keep this down here. Sorry. You want to make sure you want to keep this tail down here. And now we are going to half double crochet 3 into each of these stitches, and that's going to give you that floppy brim look. So we're just going to half double crochet 1, and I like to just put a marker here just so I know where to end. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and just keep going in every single stitch. Now that I have half double crocheted through this last stitch before the stitch marker, I'm going to slip stitch into where the stitch marker was. Now I'm also going to fasten off here, so I just chain one more so I can give myself a good knot. Trim off my yarn. And to fill in this little hole that's been created, I take my starting tail and I just whip stitch back and forth in this hole right here. And then I just weave in both ends through the body and the brim will be done. Now that the brim and the body are completely done, we're just going to work on the nose. So I'm just going to set that to the side a little bit, and I've got my baby sand color. To create the nose, we are going to use our 7mm hook, and we are going to magic circle and single crochet 6 into that magic circle. Go ahead and pull that tight. And we're working in the round, so we're just going to keep going here. We are going to single crochet 2 and then do an increase and repeat that twice for a total of 8 stitches for round 2. 1, 2, increase. And then for the final round, round 3 of the nose, we are going to single crochet 2 and then decrease 2 times for a total of 6 stitches. 2, decrease. Decrease. And then I like to slip stitch into that where that stitch marker was. I'm going to have a long tail for sewing. Cut that off. And I'm also going to flip this inside out really quick and sew in this end. Next, you're going to take a very small amount of polyfill and stuff this nose. You don't want too much in there because it can't really hold much. Just needs to give a little bit of shape. Just like that, just a tiny bit. Now to add the nose to the gnome, we're going to find the back, and that's truly going to be our back, so we're going to flip that into the back, and the nose is going to be joined right at the brim of the hat and then down. So what I like to do, let me thread my needle here. I like to literally go right into that round, that's where the brim was connected, and then I just hold this guy still. You could also get some pins or something and just have this guy sit still here for you, but I just hold him down. It's a really easy thing to sew on, and I'm just going to sew him on. This is what your gnome will look like once you have finished the nose and sewed it on. You just want to make sure you weave it into the end, shoot it into the body, and then when it comes out, you just trim that. Yeah, you can leave it just like this. It will sit up on its own. I like to give it a good push just to make sure. But you can leave it like that, or you can add arms. So I'm going to show you how to add those arms now, and then it can hold whatever you want it to hold, really. So let me show you how to add arms. I'm actually going to be adding arms to this gnome. I've previously made this and wanted to add arms to it and make it hold a green pumpkin. So I've got my yarn. This is burnout blanket in the color almond, and you're also going to need your 7mm hook again. You're going to want to make 2 of these arms, of course, and then you'll make them and just sew them onto the body. So the first step is to make a magic circle and single crochet 5 into that magic circle. I'm going to pull it tight. We're going to be working in the round, and you're going to want to do a total of 6 rows of just single crochet 5, or you could just do 30 single crochets. That'll be the quickest way, and you won't have to use your stitch marker. So on the screen I'll show you the steps, but it's going to be rounds 2 through 7, single crochet 5 in each round, or a total of 30 single crochets. And I will meet you back here once I've completed both of those arms. I have my 2 arms finished, and I like to, after I do the last stitch, I like to just slip stitch into the next one and tie off. So that gives you just a nice finished end. So we're going to actually put these to the side and make the pumpkin now. I like to make them all, and so also the pumpkin on first onto the hands, and then just use these ends to attach it so it kind of sits better and you're not fumbling with it. So this is the green I chose. This is Hobby Lobby's. I love this yarn in the color Clover. I just have this amount left, so I just grabbed it. So this is going to be a pretty small pumpkin. You're going to take your 4mm hook, and you're going to chain 9, and then working in the second. Let me zoom in just a little bit because I know this is. You're going to chain 9. You're going to start working in the second chain from the hook. You're going to single crochet In the next stitch, you're also going to single crochet. And then you're going to do 4 half double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you're going to do 2 single crochets at the end, the last 2 stitches. We're going to chain 1 and turn. We're going to repeat that, but it's going to be in the back loops only. So we're going to do in the back loops only 2 single crochets, 4 half doubles, and then 2 single crochets in the last 2 stitches. Okay, that's what we should be looking like so far. We're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to repeat that same step. We're going to do this for until round 12. So rounds 2 through 12 are just back loop only, doing 2 single crochets, 4 half double crochets, and 2 single crochets. And then you're going to meet me back here whenever you've finished all the way through round 12. Okay, I just completed my 12 rows total of my pumpkin, and you can count that easily by just counting the ridges, and you count by 2 because each ridge is 2 rows. So I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So I'm going to, and also you want this tail to be down here, and you want this tail to be up here. So I'm going to cut this one off and make it just a little bit longer. It was a lot longer actually. So I'm going to take my long tail and I'm going to thread that onto my needle. Sorry, I'm out of frame a little bit. And I'm going to do a gather stitch on this bottom row here. So I'm going to, not every row, kind of like every other row or so, I'm just going to thread my yarn through there, and it just gathers up the bottom of the pumpkin. Nothing fancy. And this is really just a basic way to make a pumpkin. If you have a preferred pumpkin method you like to follow, you can do that too. Just make it tiny. So I'm going to pull that tight, and you can see that gathered that up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to find kind of like the first stitch again and just go through that to really make that a full circle. I'm going to pull tight, and then I'm going to seam up the sides still with the same yarn. And what I like to do is I like to go through the back loop only, and then we're going to go through the stitch on the other side, pull through, and just kind of whip stitch that together, going through the back loop only. And then really that's like your foundation chain over there on that side that you're going through. You want to make sure you got this lined up as perfect as possible. I always am like a chain off for some reason, sometimes. It might actually work out this time that I won't be. Okay, so now you've got this little pouch here, and I'm going to tie these two together. And this guy I'm just going to trim off just to be a little bit shorter, and he's just going to get tucked down into the pumpkin. I don't need him for anything. And then that way I don't have to sew him in anywhere either. So you're going to take a little bit of stuffing, stuff that down into your pumpkin. Stuff that down into your pumpkin. Let me see, I think I want a little bit more. You don't want it to be completely full because you want your pumpkin to be smushed down this way. So I always give it a good little squeeze test to see if it's filled out enough. I'm just going to put a little bit more here on this side. Okay. Next, I'm going to do that same gather stitch, but across this top. So I'm just going to go around about every other row and pick up a stitch and pull my yarn through. That's where I started here. Okay, now you've got this little beach ball looking thing, and you're going to push your pumpkin flat, and I like my yarn's on this side, I like to cross over and go through this side just to make sure I'm also closing up, but I'm going to put my needle through that hole and bring it out on the other side of the pumpkin, and make sure I pull it tight, because this is going to give that cinched, like flat pumpkin cute look. And I'm going to do it again. Do about 3 or 4 times until it feels sturdy and looks the way I want it to look. That's 3. 4. And I think that looks good. It feels good. Now I'm just going to make a knot here to secure it all. And just thread this into my pumpkin. And cut it off. Now for the stem portion, I like to just take a brown thread and just go back and forth just a few times. So I've got my brown thread here, and I'm just embroidering using like a whip stitch method. Oh my gosh. I'm embroidering using the whip stitch method essentially. So I'm just gonna that's just how I enter the pumpkin. So I'm just gonna go back and forth here on the top, going through about the same holes every time, and that's just gonna give us a little stem look. I'm just gonna tie this off here. This is my favorite way to hide ends whenever I'm embroidering. I make sure I go through an obvious hole on the piece that I'm working on, and I tie off. Knot it, and then I just push these guys back in. I've seen people use the end of a crochet hook. I don't like that method. None of my hooks work essentially to do that. I don't know. I'll probably need like metal hooks to do that, but then it just pulls in that knot and you just cut it. And there you have your pumpkin. Now we are going to add it to the arms. So for this step, you're going to find wherever you want the front of your pumpkin to be. I think I want this to be my front, and I'm going to sew using the green yarn. Just do a couple of small whip stitches on the hands just to hold it just like this. And you can even, you know, hold this up to here just so you can see how you want it, like where you want to position them and everything. Mine are going to be like this, like that. So I'm going to sew the hands and the pumpkins together. The arms and the pumpkins together. Now that you have your hands sewn to your pumpkin, which looks kind of silly, and you only want to do this about 3 or 4 times, you don't want to do too much sewing, I'm going to position the arms on the gnome where I want them to be. And I'm actually going to you can use whatever you want. I'm going to use something like a needle and just pin those down in like that so I know where I want them to hold, and I can adjust them. And then what I'll do is I'll sew these onto the body. I apologize if you can hear anything in the background, but I just pinned the arms to the body, and I just counted up 6 rows, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so I'm going to be sewing the arms onto that 6th, 7th row right there. The same on this side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and that's where the arms are going to be sewed onto. You just want to make sure it's loose enough so that the pumpkin isn't like smushed up against his belly and in the right position and centered as well. And then what I'm going to do now is just whip stitch that on to place into both of those sides. And there we have it, the completed gnome holding the pumpkin. And like I said, you don't have to put arms on. You can just do it without arms and a pumpkin. And you can also do a straight or crooked hat. I think he is so precious, so cute. And if you're having problems with yours sitting up, especially once you sew in something on the front, it's going to be a little bit front heavy. You can always put in like a weight at the bottom, and you can buy those at craft stores, or you could do it yourself. If you're keeping this for yourself, you can always just put a bag of like rice or beans or something like that down at the bottom just to give it a little bit more weight. But they still do stand up on themselves by themselves for the most part, even if there's something on the front. So you shouldn't have any problems with it, but just in case you do, there's a tip. Thank you for watching this YouTube tutorial on how I crocheted this cute little gnome, and stay tuned as there's going to be more options coming out for things that he could be holding. And if you have any requests of things you want the gnome to be holding, just leave them down below and I'll see if I can make that happen. In the future, I'm definitely going to be making him holding a sunflower, and maybe even like a candy cane or Christmas tree or something like that. So stay tuned and like and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this tutorial. Thanks so much. Bye.